Turn on, tune in, take off. A series of study support podcasts designed to launch you into university study. Episode 2. Introduction to UK Academic Culture.
My name is Viv Tom, and I'm one of the 6 members of staff at Sheffield Hallam University supporting international students. The topic of today's podcast is international students and UK academic culture. With the help of some of our international students, we're going to discuss the differences of studying and learning in the UK as opposed to in their country. We're going to start our podcast with the student experience of UK academic culture, and I'm joined today by Sayan from India and Eric from China. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience so far?
Hi, my name is Sayan and I am a postgraduate student from India. Before coming to the UK, I studied economics. The system in India is based on lectures and midterm and final exams. We don't do coursework or seminars. The exams are assessed on the understanding of the lecture notes we have taken. Most of our time was taken by lectures. We were not expected to study on our own by a significant period of time.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm studying hospitality and tourism. In China, undergraduate study is very similar to what Sayan described. Lectures take up most of your time, and the assessment is mainly through exams. We did have some seminars, but written assignments and group work are not used as way of assessing student knowledge, and we didn't have the same amount of time studying independently in China.
Yes, this is something that most international students mention. The amount of time you spend in class being taught for each subject is very much less than you expect. In the UK, students are expected to take responsibility for their learning and spend at least as much time each week researching and reading. This is called self-study time. Usually, it's more than double the amount of teaching time allocated to a unit. Many students, including UK students, get really confused about that and initially think of it as free time.
Yes, when I arrived, although I was anxious about my studies, I was not quite sure what is expected of me between lectures. I felt a bit lost in the library.
It was mostly the same with me, although I started asking other Chinese students who have been here for some time to tell me what's going on. But yes, initially, I did spend my time with my friends instead of going to the library to prepare for lectures and seminars.
You have self-guided time because the teaching style in UK universities aims to provoke dialogue. Lectures are a formal presentation of information, and you are expected to take notes. But you will also be encouraged to participate by asking questions and expressing opinions informed by the reading that you have done in your self-study time. Lecturers often seek to start a discussion, to encourage more in-depth thought about the subject, and to enable you to learn from each other by sharing ideas and exploring different theories. This is an important part of the learning process and helps you to develop creative thinking.
Chinese students find this very difficult. In China, students don't usually ask questions in the class. Expressing an opinion which is different from that of your teacher is also culturally unacceptable. In China, students do not question accepted ideas in the classroom. So when I started my course here, it took me a while to get used to sharing ideas and opinions that are different from other students, and especially the lecturer. When I started my course, I had difficulties speaking in front of the teacher, but with time my confidence grew because I understood that this is what is expected here.
What I found difficult initially with the self-guided time is where to focus my attention, whether to revisit the lecture notes, discuss the subject with my colleagues from the course, or concentrate on reading the book from the booklet that the lecturer gave us.
Yes, on most courses you are given a reading list to direct your reading in the self-guided time. This doesn't mean you'll be expected to read all books and articles on the list. If this is not made clear, you should ask your tutor which titles are core, essential titles for the course, and most lecturers will tell you what material you need to cover in the library for the next lecture or seminar. You should ask them if they haven't done so.
We got that from our tutor on the course, but I was still very confused because sometimes we will have up to 5 books and several journals we have to read from one topic. We did not have the time to read them all in a week.
It doesn't mean that you have to read all books. When you start to read a book or an article, it's best to scan through the contents page, chapter headings, and introductory sentences. This will help you understand the structure and the ideas that will be discussed, and you can then decide which chapter you need to read in detail and take notes. If you apply this method when you're preparing for a lecture or seminar, but also for written assignments, you can take proper organised notes, and this will help you reference correctly in your written work and will save you time.
Chinese students usually struggle initially with the referencing rules. In China, because written work is rarely used for assessment, we have no experience of referencing. Also, our teachers really expect you to memorize and reproduce their notes or the textbook information.
In the UK, if you present the words or ideas of an author or another student without acknowledging their source, you could be accused of plagiarism. Whenever you use a quotation from a book or reproduce an author's ideas, even in your own words, you should indicate the source. You may find the accepted ways of quoting and referencing work in the UK are different from those you are used to, so check with your tutor about how you should reference your work. Don't rely on the advice of other students or friends.
All students find the subject of plagiarism quite stressful, and we are uncertain what to do to avoid it.
Well, if we go back to note-taking, there are a few simple rules you should follow. When you read on a subject and plan to take notes, start with writing down the title, author, and any other reference information. For example, the date, the publisher. Try to avoid copying out large sections from the text. Make a note of the main points and summarize arguments in your own words if possible. If you copy out a large section of the text, put in quotation marks so that you know to reference it if you use it in your work, and note the page number. Keeping well-referenced, consistent notes when you prepare for lectures and seminars will save you time when it comes to writing assignments, and you will be able to use your notes and reference them properly in your work.
This is a very useful piece of advice. Our course tutor organized a session on plagiarism and referencing to explain the referencing rules and gave us useful tips about avoiding plagiarism. We were given the advice about note-taking early on, so when the written assignments started, I was able to reuse my notes from the reading I've done for seminars and lectures. But I know from my friends that not all tutors provide such guidance at the beginning of the course.
There are several ways you can get help with referencing. You should always start with your tutor. Consulting with your tutors is critical to your success, and you should feel free to ask them questions or for advice. But note that lecturers and tutors will normally be available to provide help and advice on a very limited basis outside timetabled classes. So you should try to ask your questions during tutorials or if the lecturer invites questions in lectures or seminars. Use that time.
But sometimes students don't have this opportunity, particularly if the question is not related to the lecture. For example, a general question about referencing.
Well, if that's the case, then you can use the Guide About Academic Referencing published by the Learning Centre. It can be found on Shoespace in the Information Resource section, or you can make an appointment to see an education advisor who will be able to help. The Education Guidance Service provides advice about developing your study skills, as well as help with understanding the university rules and regulations.
I also found attending the drop-in study practice sessions in the Access Center at City campus very useful. The service is also available in the Learning Center on the Collegiate Crescent campus.
Do you have any other useful tips about getting study advice? What else did you find useful?
Take the initiative to get to know a few people in each of your classes. You may be absent one day and need to borrow notes or double-check your understanding of something. Also, read the course outline carefully and make a note of all expectations and dates for assignments and exams.
I found study workshops very useful. I think I attended all workshops that were offered by my course or by elsewhere in the university. Attending international student orientation helped because of the workshops, but also because I was able to make friends.
Yes, having friends is important for your academic success. If all you do is study, you will get anxious, and the time you spend studying won't be effective. Keep in touch with your friends. They are your support community. You can talk to them about any problem you have, and you can have fun together.
Make sure you receive the International Student Bulletin. It contains useful information about study skill workshops and resources, as well as ideas of things to do with your friends in Sheffield.
And remember that if something is affecting your academic work, whether it's a personal problem or illness, you should contact your tutor to discuss your options as soon as you can. They will be able to refer you to other services if needed. Or you could come to see International Student Support in Student and Learning Services. I hope you found this podcast useful. Information on all services mentioned is available on Shoespace and in Student and Learning Services at City and Collegiate Crescent Campus. I'd like to thank Cyan and Eric for sharing their experiences and helping us produce this podcast. If you want further practical help, you can use our drop-in study practice, which offers 20-minute appointments in both ADSETS and Collegiate Learning Centres. Go to Shoespace for more information. Alternatively, for more in-depth help, you can book a 40-minute education guidance appointment in Student and Learning Services by phoning 0114 225 3813. This concludes this study support podcast. We hope it was useful. We now recommend that you listen to the other podcasts in the series to introduce you to other essential study skills. Good luck.